Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/prorevenge, where people tell us their stories and when they got revenge on someone or something they didn't like. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. And also, if you could vote in the poll at the top right of your screen, that would be awesome. But for now, let's sit back, relax and enjoy some pro-revenge. Repeatedly blocking my car in private parking? Good luck finding and getting your car out. I live in an apartment building which has end-to-end parking for 2 spaces per apartment, and access to the parking levels 1 through 5 are done via a locked automatic roller door which people can only get through if they have a remote for it, or sneak through behind someone else. I only have a single car, and sometimes I let my friends park in the space in front of my car if they give me notice, so I generally park at the back of the double space. Plus, it's easier for my neighbours who have 2 cars. Earlier this year, a random car began parking in front of mine on Friday afternoons, meaning I couldn't go out with my car on Friday nights. Annoying, but not the biggest issue when you live super close to the city. This continued nearly every week over about 5 weeks when I didn't park my car at the front of the bay, which I began doing. But times I planned to leave the space free for friends coming over or whatever, the car appeared again. I made repeated attempts to stop this behaviour by leaving notes, which escalated into printouts of a photo of the car with the license plate clearly visible and an explanation that if it happened again, I'd press charges and/or have the vehicle towed. Well, it happened again. And this time, it was still there Saturday afternoon when I had been planning on going away with a group of my mates. My guess is, someone went out on Friday, got drunk, and decided to pick up the car later, not concerning themselves with the inconvenience it caused anyone else. It clearly hadn't moved, as my aggressive note telling them to screw off was still there sitting limply under their wiper blades. I figured enough was enough. It was time to have the vehicle towed. So I called building management and eventually called a towing company, who refused to help because the space was on the 3rd floor and they can't get any trucks to that level because of the height and space restrictions. Ordinarily, most people would be pretty much screwed at this point, and I will admit I briefly considered sitting on the hood of the car until the douchebag came to pick it up while sending my mates on their way without me. But they would have to work out a new arrangement for transport as one car wouldn't have cut it. Fortunately for me, however, my parents only live 30 minutes away and have a garage where I work on one of my cars that's getting at the tail end of a minor restoration. One of the things I use pretty often is a set of vehicle positioning jacks to jam my project car right up against the wall of the garage to minimize the space it takes up. For anyone that doesn't know, vehicle positioning jacks are basically devices that slot under each wheel, then lift the car up on hydraulics so you can freewheel it in any direction. Whilst I hadn't originally gone to retrieve them, when I had to take my project car off them, a bright idea came to my head. None of my mates minded spending an extra hour to screw someone over that had interfered with us, so we grabbed the jacks and went back, propped the car up and wheeled it out. 6 guys can easily move around a small hatchback, so we pushed across the levels slowly and carefully to an area where there isn't parking but is a load supporting pillar with space enough for a car behind it, in a little section of the garage where it isn't lit and is completely out of the way. Typically, there's a guy on my level that parks a motorbike there, but he isn't meant to, and I doubted he minded. We dumped it between the pillar and the wall, with the nose pointed towards the wall. I took back my angry note, the jacks, and we left to enjoy our meal. When he came back Monday afternoon, after the long weekend, the car was still there. Which was no real surprise, considering there was only about a foot of space for movement between the pillar and the car, and another foot or so between the car and the wall. From the fact the front wheels had changed, we're guessing they did try to get it out, unsuccessfully. It eventually went later in the week, though I'm not exactly sure how they managed it. I never saw that car again. There's a few edits here which are quite useful, so I'm going to read them and show the graphics on screen. As requested, my bad MS Paint graphic, made in GIMP, because way to break the mold, to explain the positioning. Now with animations. For the record, I'm pretty sure we spun it half a dozen times whilst moving it, because none of my mates had ever seen the ease of which vehicle positioning jacks move cars around. I probably could have done it myself since I know how they tend to move, but 2 novices could easily have done it extremely easily. Plus, there is something weirdly amusing about dancing a car around as it slides in directions it was never meant to, and that you only see in car crash dashcam videos from Russia. Edit number 2. For anyone who doesn't understand how parking in my building works, it's like this. 2 car spaces per apartment, but 1 car goes in front of the other. Hope that clears up why I couldn't just move my car out and leave his where it was. Edit 4. A few people have asked why I don't simply park at the front of my spaces. I don't always drive to work because I live close enough so my car stays home. My mates will need to go into the city every so often. Usually happens randomly, like once a week. So if I leave my car at the front of the bay, I'd either need to go home to move it or tell my mates they're out of luck. I'd rather not take away a benefit to my friends, all because the occasional douchebag, and single persistent douchebag, wants to freeload too. At least my mates buy me a beer or pay for my gas occasionally. Plus, the person parking in my space illegally is the one doing something wrong, not me. Edit 5. Police will also not help us unless the vehicle has been there long enough to be considered abandoned. However, cite that I'm within my right to have the vehicle moved or towed, which, as I've pointed out, won't happen because of the difficulty unless I pay a ridiculous removal fee, which is greater than the impound charge. Kid tried to flip the motorcycle I'd sold him using my photos. I blew up his phone. 2 years ago, I sold a motorcycle on Craigslist. The guy who bought it was an early 20s guy who didn't bring any riding gear with him. Said he'd left it at home and saw my ad while he was at work. I rode the bike down the street and back for him. He said it sounded fine. Long story short, I let him talk me down $100 because he seemed like a nice kid. I rode the bike to his sister's house for him, had my wife follow and pick me up. The next day, it's back on Craigslist for $500 more than I was asking, using my pictures. I'm a professional photographer. I've had my photos on magazine colours. I was okay with a douchebag kid conning me and flipping the bike, but not with using my pictures. So I sent him a text telling him to take down the ad and post his own pictures. He didn't. So I posted my own Craigslist ad that said something like, "Free chickens and goats." I'm old and tired, and I think it's just time to quit. I've got 600 hens and enough roosters to keep them laying. Also, 40 milk goats. I just want to make sure they go to a good home. First come, first serve. Se habla español. And I posted his phone number. I waited a day. Called from my home phone at 9:30 at night. "Hello?" He sounded tired. "Estoy llamando por gallinas," I said. I'm calling about the chickens. "Ain't no chickens! Ah! No chickens, douchebag!" I waited half a second, then said, "Tienes cabras?" "No goats!" he yelled, then hung up. The next day, he texted me, told me he'd changed the pics, and could I please take down the ad for the chickens. I thanked him for taking down my photos, and asked him what did he mean about the chickens. To answer some comments down below, the kid definitely conned me, or lied or fibbed or whatever word you like to use. I left out that long conversation because it slowed the story to a crawl and wasn't interesting or funny. It was definitely about the pictures. I put a ton of effort into them. Nicely posed, shiny clean bike with snow-capped mountains in the background. Fill lighting on a bright sunny day, couple of hours cleaning them all up digitally. I've seen worse pics in manufacturers' brochures. Was pretty proud of those pics, and while I could live with the fact that I'd gotten taken, I hated the fact that he was plagiarizing my creative effort. It's always about the chickens. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like, and if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.